I didn't realize it was daylight savings time today, so I was working on editing an episode last night, and I was like, oh, it's not that bad. It's 1:30. Okay, it's getting to be 2. Wait, what? It's 3? How is it 3 o'clock? Where did the time go? I was just like, oh, spring forward. I understand now.
It also impacted me. I went to a friend's play last night, and it was a very long-running play, and I didn't get home until midnight, which was later than I wanted to get to bed because I still had to wake up and finish reading our assignment for today. And then I lost an hour. I don't know, I've just been scrambling all morning.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 48 of the Whatnauts review show, where each week we have a different story to talk about. Could be a comic, could be an anime, manga, TV show, movie, something else. We will read it, watch it, do what we have to do, come back here and talk about it. My name is Kyle Springer. I am joined by Melissa Wilkinson. Melissa, how are you?
Good. How are you today?
I am doing well. Besides the lost an hour of our time, it's just like I'm feeling okay. It was good. I have some new toys to play with for the podcast, so that's super exciting. I have a stream deck, and I'm gonna be hitting buttons on the stream deck. One thing I'm gonna kind of test out and see is, so this is what, if you're watching this on YouTube, we also do this as a video podcast. Sometimes it works really well. Sometimes our internet is not cooperating. But I'm gonna experiment seeing if we can do one camera stuff. So if Melissa is talking, I can switch to her camera right there, and it's just a full thing of her face. And then if I say something, it can go back to me, and then we'll see how that works. And then if it's just us talking, we can go back to the thing. Whoops, except I don't want the social media things to pop up. So there, I still have some getting used to it, but
that's exciting.
It'll be fun. Anyways, this week we are talking about some Captain Marvel comics, because the brand new movie just came out in theaters. I went to go see it Thursday night. You saw it yesterday. So I think you and I and Jess Beaver are gonna share our full thoughts on that on an episode of the Reactor Core, which is one of our other podcasts. So go look for that on the whatnauts.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Captain Marvel volumes 1 through 2 is what we are talking about right now. These are the ones from 2014, 2015-ish, written by Kelly Sue DeConnick, art by David Lopez and Marcio Takara, I believe is her last name. And yeah, I've heard a lot about this series, just good things, like, hey, this is really good, it's fun, you should check it out. And this is the first time that I've read much with Captain Marvel. I don't think there's been much that I've read. She's not really infected my corner of the Marvel universe that I usually read.
And I don't usually read very many comics at all, so this is the first time I've ever read her.
There you go. So yeah, it was an interesting read. What did you think? So you mentioned you just got done with these kind of right before we started.
I've had
recording.
A long week.
What were you expecting when I pitched these? And without spoiling it, did the movie change what you expected of these comics at all?
I think I was expecting something closer to the movie, where it is this cosmic sci-fi action movie with a lot of her home life on Earth, and who she was as a human, and now who she is this super powered hyper space being that can blast whole planets apart if she wants to. And the comic's a lot more fun, adventure-y. It is some really funny little side stories. I like the comic a lot. It's not what I was expecting, but I really enjoyed myself.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's because I saw the movie
Mm-hmm.
first as well, and then I started reading these yesterday. Um, and they're very
Yeah.
different. So if you were coming to this episode having just seen the movie and you want to know where to start within the Captain Marvel comics, this one I'm struggling to say this is something you should read
It,
immediately after you. There might be a better
yeah.
spot, but at the same time, I think the movie kind of
Yeah.
established the character. If that's the route you're taking with that, and so this is just kind of like, hey, here's a fun little
Mm-hmm.
adventure with
Yes.
Carol. So it might work, but if it's something like I want an origin story or like
Mm-hmm.
where do I start to understand the character, this might not be
I
what
think
you're
it
looking
gives
for.
you a good example of Carol and her personality and her power set and like how she deals with problems. But I think it does
Yeah,
involve more pre-existing knowledge of the Marvel Comics universe than I had. Because it had
yeah.
some characters I recognized, like, oh, there's the Guardians of the Galaxy, there's Rhodey, and characters I had seen before but didn't really know anything about,
Mhm.
like Spider-Woman, and then a ton of characters where it's like, this seems like a person I'm supposed to know, and I really don't.
Yeah. So most of it, I don't know. Like they're one of the
Hmm.
big things they reference in this comic is the Builder
Yeah, I don't know that.
War or something. I have no idea what that is. And I think around the time that this comic was coming out, which was like
Hmm.
2014 ish. That's when it's right around the time I think they put Brian Michael
Oh,
Bendis on
okay.
Guardians of the Galaxy. So I think the first Guardians movie was just about to
Yes.
come out,
I
and they were trying to hype up the Guardians of the
I was
Galaxy a bit
spacing out
more.
for a second a couple minutes earlier, trying to remember what was happening in the MCU when these comics came out, and I think 2014 was the year of Winter Soldier and Guardians for sure. Guardians was in August.
Okay, yeah. So it's right around that time where the Guardians are trying to kind of break into mainstream comics
Yeah.
because before the movie they were no one. And Captain Marvel was being put a little bit more into the spotlight. Still hadn't really. I mean, she'd been around and stuff like that, but it's still not, it's not as household of a name as like
Yeah.
Iron Man or Captain America, but she was there doing things. Uh, and one of the events that they were doing in the comics was around that time. I was like, oh, I think that had to do something with
Hmm.
Guardians of the Galaxy. No wonder, like that kind of makes sense. They wanted to do something focused in space because they had the
Hmm.
new movie coming out. Um, what was I going to say? Let's do a little bit of a
Yeah.
synopsis for people who have not read these and might just want a basic plot of
Hmm.
what is happening here. Do you want to start? You look like you're about to jump in.
No, I understand the basic plot points, but I'm realizing now I didn't remember any planet names. Did you get any of those?
There, there's
There's Torfa.
Torfa. That was one of the ones that was in the movie as well. I don't really remember any of the other ones.
We can figure this out
I'm
together.
not sure. Yeah. Um. So the book opens up in what appears to be like a Star Wars kind of market,
Yeah,
dusty
yeah.
planet. It looks, yeah, it looks like they're following someone and stuff like that. Some action starts to happen, and then it's like, oh, 2 weeks
Yes.
before. And then we kind of get the story of how Captain Marvel got to this point, who her team members are in
Hmm.
that opening section. And we find out that Carol is still on Earth, and she's basically making the decision to be the member of the Avengers that goes out into space and just kind of is the liaison between the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Avengers and stuff like that, just so like the Avengers can get a heads up of like, hey, this might be coming towards Earth. Heads up. So she decides to take that position, goes out in space, ends up having to she ends up on this other planet where there is some kind of sickness going on. She wants to help with that. There's also some political unrest.
Yeah, like it seems that the planet is toxic. So some sort of an alliance wants to take the inhabitants away from that planet to keep them safe. But the inhabitants are like, no, this is our home. Why don't you help us cure this sickness instead of like leaving the sick people here to die and whisking away all the healthy people to who knows where.
Yeah. It comes from that in volume 1 and her figuring that
that's
stuff
whole volume.
Out to volume 2, which is a little bit more of a breather.
Volume 2
felt like it was a lot more. It was a lot more fun. I mean, I feel like that's a lame word to describe it. It's not the like Star Wars epic political unrest, battles,
lighthearted, a little more comedic, and it is just like 1 or 2 issue stories in volume 2.
Yeah. The first volume was entitled Higher, Further, Farther, More, I believe, or Higher, Further, Faster, More. And the second one is called Stay Fly. And we get to see a Fillerkin.
Yeah, the little tentacle cats.
Yeah, there you go. So that's kind of the synopsis of the first 2 volumes of what you'll find in those things. We're about to get into our spoiler territory, so I think before we do that, we'll do housekeeping, but we just wanted to give you a heads up in case you have not read these yet and you wanted to go check them out. Right now they are both on Comixology Unlimited, so if you are a subscriber to that, you can read them for free. However, Comixology.com is also just having a sale on Captain Marvel stuff. Most of it is like 70% off-ish, so it's dirt cheap. You can pick up the first like 4 or 5 volumes of the run that we started for like the price of 1 volume.
A bargain.
So go pick up some Captain Marvel comics if you are interested in that. That being said, housekeeping. First and foremost, we are not going to be live streaming these episodes out to the public at the end of this month, at the end of March, start of April. We are going to be transitioning these to be patron-only live streams because what we do here is kind of a book club style thing. It's not, if you haven't really read or watched what we're watching, it doesn't really make for good live streamed content. But for $1 a month, you can get all of our episodes early on Patreon, as well as get access to these exclusive live streams, Patreon-only live streams. So we encourage you to follow along.
It's fun. Join us. And these were, I compressed them into literally the last hours before we had to record, but they are a quick read. It's pretty easy to join along with us if you would like to.
Exactly. So that's the deal with that. Patreon.com/the Whatnauts is where you can support us. And if you want to catch the live streams for that, if not, you can always go through our back catalog. That's the good thing about this show is it doesn't matter when you listen to an episode, just go watch or read whatever we did and you can follow along. What else? You and I just recorded our first Patreon exclusive
earning our podcaster merit badges.
There you go. For the patrons at the $3 level, all the exclusive content that we do will be available to you. And we just covered some X-Files episodes. It was good. It was a lot of fun. It was also the first time I had really seen X-Files stuff, so it was an education.
Check it out with us.
Yeah. You and I and Jess also just recorded an episode of The Captain's Log. We talked about everything from apple wine to cemeteries to weird statues. And me finding my $200 gift
boon
card.
to us all.
Exactly. So go check that out. That's an episode of The Captain's Log, which again is one of our other podcasts. You can find out more at thewhatnauts.com. Enough of this stupid housekeeping stuff. Get on with it, Kyle. We're going to get into our spoiler alert stuff right now. Yeah, so if you haven't read these books, go read them, and you can come back. And if you are looking for spoilers for the movie, we'll have a spoiler cast on that very soon as well. Melissa, what were you thinking now that you've got the books done? You just got done with these books like half an hour ago. So where do these stack up in what we've read? Did you like it?
I did like it. Yeah.
Not really.
No, I like that it's pretty standard. Not standard in that it's boring or trite, but standard that it's like, yes, things I am familiar with. Classic, good. It's like sci-fi adventure comfort food, kind of like there's a planet under a terrible rain. There's a ragtag group of, warriors that are there to fight for the planet. There's a conspiracy. Somebody's trying to hide something. They topple down a government official. Carol flies around and shoots things. Like it's good, solid sci-fi adventure stuff.
Yeah. It's like that first, especially the first volume, but really that like first opening sequence really reminded me of Star Wars, as like kind of already mentioned. And then of course they make a Star Wars joke like right in that opening scene, and they're like, okay, that they know what they're trying to kind of mimic and pull from. So it was
and it's not just like a reference to Star Wars. Like she's trying to get somebody off their tail, and she's like, these aren't the droids you're looking for. But that's part of Carol's character. Like her cat is named Chewie. Her computer on her ship is named Harrison. They don't say it, but it has to be after Harrison Ford. Why else would you pick that name?
Another Star Wars reference.
So I like that was just a little personality quirk for her. I mean, Star Wars is perhaps the single most popular pop culture franchise that ever will live. So finding somebody who's really into Star Wars is like, a dime a dozen, basically. But I like that she's
even find aliens that are into it, apparently.
Yeah. But I like that she got to have something like that, like a favorite piece of pop culture and like a thing she loves to reference amid all the other things that make her a big superhero. Like they gave her something very human amid everything else, which was nice.
Yeah. Let me ask you this then. Did you like Carol more when she was out in space adventuring and fighting, or did you like the quieter, more like back on Earth moments?
It was easier for me to understand the space adventure stuff because it was either like something I recognized, like the Guardians of the Galaxy, or something that felt like it was episodic, whereas the stuff back on home, it felt like it was continuing an earlier part of the story I didn't read. So I was less, not that they weren't good, I just had no context for them. Like that old woman in the hospital, I don't really know who that is. And it's very sweet that she goes there. And it's not her mom, but it's like a very motherly figure friend of hers. And she spends all night telling her about all her adventures, and she falls asleep in the hospital room. It's very sweet. I just don't know what it means.
Yeah. So I mean, comics are always kind of confusing with their numbering and stuff like that. I think what happened is because Kelly Sue DeConnick, who wrote this, and who also had a cameo in the movie.
Oh, I guess we can talk about this in the actual movie podcast. We don't have to take the time now. You can tell me later.
Well, just to mention it real fast, there's a scene in the movie where Carol comes off of a train and everyone is looking at her strange, and there's a woman in like bright red lipstick with bright red hair, and that is Kelly Sue.
Nice. I know what she looked like.
Yeah. And so what was I talking about before I mentioned Kelly Sue? The numbering. So I think what had happened is this run started before this volume, and then Marvel did one of their stupid initiative, like, we're relaunching the universe, except they weren't really, and then everything just went back to number 1 for no apparent reason, other than they think that number 1s sell more comics. But yeah, then like we jump in and we're like, we have no idea what this builder war is. We have no idea who this person in the hospital is. Why, what is happening here? And so yeah, like if you're jumping into this as kind of the first Captain Marvel comics, like I did, or you did too, there was a lot of stuff that I felt like just like I don't understand what's happening or who these people or why I should care is the thing, because I don't mind being introduced to new characters, or like, hey, here's this aspect about Carol's life that you may not have known yet, but then they also don't explain much of it, or I mean not that I want like exposition and stuff, like this person is this, back in this one they had all of this happen, I don't necessarily need that, but there just needs to be, I guess, more of a pull to kind of tease me and want me to know what's happening here, rather than just confuse
it's
me.
not like there's one big question that you're waiting to have answered. It's like a general air of, I'm kind of confused, but I need answers, but I don't know what questions to ask to get the answers.
Yeah. So that was an interesting thing for me, because I liked the moments back on Earth, and I thought that there was a good mix of them. It's not true. Like, oh, this was space heavy and we don't get to see her interact with much of the Marvel universe that we know, but we do get to see her with Rhodey, who's in the Iron Patriot suit, which I don't follow Iron Man or War Machine, so I didn't know. I don't think I knew that Rhodey eventually got that suit. That suit first appeared in the comics.
Doesn't he has in the movies, though. He's been War Machine and Iron Patriot in the movies.
Well, no. Yeah, I know he's War Machine, so I'm getting something confused in my head.
Too many robot suits.
Now. So there's Iron Patriot, which is the suit that he had on in these comics, and he also has on, I believe, in Iron Man 3 is that the one?
I think so. Yeah.
One? And then there's another suit in the comics that Norman Osborn had for a little bit. Yeah. Called American Sun. And it's an Iron Man costume that he got his hands on and painted in like red, white, and blue and all of that stuff when Norman Osborn was at one point he was in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Well, that's bad. Don't put him there.
Yeah, don't put him there. So a brief aside about that all happened because the Skrulls, which you might be familiar with from the Captain Marvel movie, invaded Earth in an event that they called Secret Invasion. And Norman Osborn was the one that got the like winning shot, the one that like killed the last of them. So they like lauded him a hero, all of that stuff, and they were like, Nick Fury, how dare you let these aliens invade Earth? You're fired. You don't run S.H.I.E.L.D. Let's give it to Norman Osborn.
He's not even a good dad. How is he supposed to be a dad to the world, keeping it safe from aliens?
Exactly. And so then he's like, you know what? All the superheroes are bad guys. They're illegal now. I'm gonna hire all of the villains, and I'm gonna make my own superhero team. So they had the like Dark Avengers, the Dark X-Men, all of that stuff. And yeah, so like the Dark Avengers was like Norman Osborn as American Son. They had Venom instead of Spider-Man. They had Daken or Daken instead of Wolverine. They had all of this stupid stuff. It was just like, oh my god. But I digress. That's what I was confusing in my head. I was like, why is Rhodey in the American Son?
Because Norman cannot be trusted with
weird.
it.
That's not supposed to be. Yeah. I mean, I thought they got rid of that suit. I don't know. I don't remember what happened, so maybe I missed something. Who knows? But yeah, like I liked those moments with Rhodey and seeing that they had some kind of relationship there. And seeing I guess Lieutenant Trouble, which is a little bit different in the movie that's in there too though, which I'm excited for some of that stuff to get explored in the movie. Yeah, I felt like it had a good balance.
That's
Space
true.
and Earth. It was mainly in space, but it was enough of the Earth stuff to be like, okay, she's from Earth.
I'm sorry. You've never listened to the Thrilling Adventure Hour, have you? Okay.
No,
Within the Thrilling Adventure Hour, there's a story called Sparks Nevada, Marshall on Mars. And he is the Marshall on Mars, but he's from Earth. And that's his catchphrase whenever he's like explaining to somebody why he doesn't do something the traditional Mars way. He's like, because I'm from Earth. Just saying that anything is from Earth is going to send me into giggles every time. So this is why I laughed so long at you saying a normal sentence.
I was like, it wasn't that funny? Well, what are you thinking of? Like, yeah. How did you like the Guardians of the Galaxy in this? Because those must have been characters that are like some of the ones that you knew more of. How did they compare to what you knew of the Guardians of the Galaxy?
I was aware that their comic counterparts looked very different than the movie counterparts. So, yeah, visually I was prepared for why they looked different. And personality-wise, I think they felt pretty similar.
Yeah, they've gotten back to kind of making them look like their movie counterparts. They kind of go back and forth depending on who's drawing it,
how much green paint they have.
Yeah, exactly. But I liked that it didn't really focus on the whole team. If it introduced them, it immediately splintered them off and focused on one character. Especially since this is a book about Carol and her adventures, having like a whole team kind of invade your book can be a lot. And so I think it was really good when Carol first finds, I guess the character's name is Tick. First finds Tick and like is intercepted by the Guardians of the Galaxy, and she's like, what the hell do I do with this thing? And it pretty much immediately breaks off to Carol and Peter Quill, Star-Lord, who's also
he's from
Earth.
Missouri specifically. My fellow statesman.
And yeah, like I liked that it wasn't like, hey, here's the whole team, and the whole team is now arguing with Carol, and the whole team is this, and the whole
it's
team is
not
that. It
overwhelming.
made it more manageable.
Yeah, as much as you get to, there are a lot of side characters in these two volumes, and you get to know them pretty well, but it never detracts from being Carol's book. Like, you don't spend a lot of time away from Carol, which is nice. I like that she's got different relationships with everybody. Like, I like seeing her relationship with Tick evolve from Tick being just like this pesky stowaway to like, oh, Carol's friend, like somebody Carol is really trying to learn more about and watch out for.
Yeah, more like, hey, you should get off of my ship.
Watch out for that. It's like, it might not be safe for you to be around me.
Yeah, they've become friends, but it's still like, hey, you've come a long way, and that's good for you, but let's go our separate ways now.
I thought Tick's journey was interesting because when she first shows up, she's from an alien race. It's kind of ambiguous how old she is, but she feels kind of like a teenager. And later she says, like, my race lives to be 20 years old and I'm already 14. So that's kind of why she feels like a teenager, but also like she is past the middle of her life. Like, death is looming for her.
Yeah, like, so I feel like looking at it now, I think Tick had the most character development out of all of the characters, because we first see her and she is like scared out of her mind. She's this like what appears to be this small child, and then we kind of learn more about her and what's happening to her people and her planet. She wants to be this warrior, this adventurer going in space, but we still don't know much about her, and it's kind of not until the second volume that Tick is more explored as a character, and then it kind of comes around at the end when I guess at the start of volume 2. Wait, is it Tick that asks the question?
Carol is asking Tick, and Tick is like, that's very dark, and Carol's like, it's not supposed to be dark, it's supposed to be deep. Like, she really wants to get to know Tick, so that's why she asks her, would you...
It's more like, well, you're stuck
and
with
like,
me,
this
so...
is a character question that I'm asking you, so I can really, like, forget all the, what's your favorite food? What's your favorite color? No, I'm gonna ask you, would you rather live a long life, but not greatly benefit others, or leave a tremendous positive impact on others but die before you really see it? And that's what Tick chooses, the last option. Well, it's just,
which is an interesting
she has
question.
to pick that 'cause her life's so short.
Well, I mean, she doesn't have to pick that one. She didn't have to do what I did, but we'll mention that in a sec. But it's a weird thing because like I kind of expect that question coming from Tick rather than being asked asked of her what you would choose, because at that point we don't know that Tick is 14 years old and will only live to be 20. Like, we don't know that. I mean, unless we know, maybe if we've read
that might
more
be a race of aliens that shows up elsewhere.
Yeah, but like if this is your first time jumping in, you probably won't know that, and so it's this good foreshadowing that's put in there. But I think it's also very telling of Carol and like what she cares about and what she thinks about. Like, am I going to be someone that makes a difference? Because there's kind of a good comparison between like her, Captain America, and Iron Man in this book too. She's like, she's not the billionaire playboy important celebrity who can make a difference with money.
What she says about Tony is that he's a billionaire genius, and Cap is a great diplomat, and what she can do is at the very least buy time.
But it like she's doing that more in the sense of like, well, she's not necessarily the smartest or the most rich or the most famous. She's also not necessarily the most, like diplomatic, like, let's do this the way where no one gets hurt. She's more of the one like, well, I have these powers, so I'm just gonna go fuck some shit up.
I like that Carol really knows herself and like kind of, even not on a grander cosmic scale, like what is my place in the universe, but like she knows her skills, she knows what she does well, and she knows how to use that to the advantage of her allies.
Exactly. Yeah. And I feel like her knowledge of self is really important to her as a character. And I think she struggles with it a lot, but I think she's a character that like is I don't want to say is stronger than she thinks or than she knows. I think she knows it, but still doubts herself every now and then. That's kind of the impression that I got. She still thinks
or like that Hero is her job, but she's still realizing that Hero is who she is to her very core. Like, it's not just what she does, it's who she is overall.
Yeah. And I think that helps give the book like a sense of purpose of just like, hey, this is who she is, this is what she does. So I don't know. I liked it. I liked the big action bits and stuff like that. I liked seeing her fight. And she makes a comment that she likes it too. Like, she likes fighting, which is, I guess it's one of those things that when you see people try and maybe not really do it well, to do the like strong female protagonist, there's always like, I feel like there's this struggle of like, oh well, I have to fight, but I don't really want to but I will if I have to because I'm strong, and it's not this, look, I just like fucking punching people.
I like that she enjoys what she does. Like, she's not like, she's not fighting because she's really backed into a corner, because it's like, well, in this darkest time, my inner strength rises up. Like, that's part of her all the time. That's what she does for fun.
It's one of those things where I feel like, I also mentioned I feel like she doubts herself every day and now and then, but at the same time, she knows who she is and what she can do. But I feel like that's one of those things that people try to do to give like fake depth to characters, is to just like make them have this inner struggle, like almost like a will they won't they type of thing, to be like, oh, will they use their powers, will they not, is that what they really want to do, is that who they want to be? And she has this kind of clarity of who she is. Even if she doubts it from time to time, she is like, no, that's who I am. But am I the right person for the job?
I don't think she doubts herself. I think she kind of takes herself for granted, or believes she's like, well, I'll do what I can, where it's like, no, you are a very major pivotal part of what's going on. Like, she is, like I said, she's kind of like, well, I got a job to do, I'll do the best job I can, I'm happy to do the job. Or it's like, no, you are like the MVP of doing the job, you don't just show up and clock in. And I think that within herself, she balances all the different parts of her life very well. Like, there isn't any element to her that's like, oh, the more I use these cosmic powers, the farther I get from my humanity. She's like, nope, I'm a human, and I like coffee, and I like bacon, and I can summon up like the power of a sun and punch somebody across the galaxy.
And Star Wars.
Like, she's very grand, powerful things, and very mundane things all at the same time in really good balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Um, let's see. What did you think about the whole toxic planet thing? Was that in? I felt that was really
I liked that.
interesting
Yeah. I
story.
like that twist that there's something on the planet that's making people sick and nobody can figure out what it is. And it turns out it's vibranium poisoning because nobody knew this planet had
Yeah.
vibranium on it. And like it is secretly being mined in like a dangerous way. Like vibranium has to be treated like precisely. Otherwise, it does become harmful.
Properly. Yeah.
And that's what's making everybody sick. I also didn't know vibranium like
Yeah.
grew outside of Earth.
It's something I forgot because they always mention, or I guess it's something I just don't think about because they always mention it's the strongest metal in the universe, and that doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
mean Earth,
I
right?
I have a slight tangent here. I have a comic question for you.
Sure.
Adamantium versus vibranium. Why do we need two metals that are super powerful like that? Which one's stronger?
Because you gotta have the Coke and Pepsi of the Marvel universe. No, I vibranium is
Okay.
stronger. If I'm not mistaken. But yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, so it's something I forgot. Like, oh yeah, it doesn't just have to be on Earth. They can find this elsewhere if they really need. But there is a large chunk of it down on Earth in Wakanda, and they know how to mine it and use it and stuff like that. And I guess yeah, the like poisonous gas and stuff that was getting in their water was all coming from mining it too
Yeah.
fast and not treating it the way they were supposed to. But I liked that it was a problem that came up that they didn't like. The Empire didn't know about. The Spartax Empire didn't know about necessarily. And when they found out, they were just like, "Oh shit! Well, if we don't bring it up, we can just kind of get rid of the refugee problem and then have this really strong metal to also like reinforce our pilots with and stuff." So it was a kind of kill two birds in one stone, but just like that's a really shitty two birds in one stone, So I guess backing up a little bit, the Spartax Empire. You probably put a little bit of this together. Jason or Jason of the Spartax Empire is Star-Lord's father in the comics. Yeah,
I didn't put that together.
So in the MCU,
it's Ego, the living planet.
It's Ego, the living planet, who's a celestial, which is I basically a god.
Yeah.
So in the MCU, Star-Lord is half god, half human. Whereas in the comics, he's half like Spartax or Spartaxian, Spartan. I'm not sure what they're called. But yeah, so like his father leads the Spartax Empire of just like these. They're like humanoid aliens. I think they do have a little bit of powers, but I could be wrong on that because I haven't read much Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. But yeah, I remember because I read some Guardians of the Galaxy comics, I think right before Guardians 2 came out. And it was one of the things that I think I read volume 1 of something, and it was probably the volume 1 that was coming out around the time that these comics were coming out. And it was like, oh, wait, this is in the middle of the story. Where is the actual beginning? And then I went back and read those things. And I remember, yes, something about like the Spartax Empire and Jason, and that's his father, and stuff like that. So, So that, yeah, just a little bit of a tidbit. I don't know if you had put
No.
that together of like that was his father, and because Star-Lord mentions it. Like he when they're in the ship at the start of the comics, and Carol is wondering what to do with Tick. She's talking to the Guardians, and Tick is immediately upset when when she finds out that Peter is like the prince of the Spartan.
I do kind of remember this.
Empire.
Yeah, I was reading that issue while I was like at my parents' house doing laundry, and my dad's watching TV too loud because he's an old dad. So I knew while I was reading it, like, I'm distracted. I'm not getting all of this. And I didn't have time to go back and read it again. So, okay, that I missed.
Gotcha.
And I also like,
yeah,
I think
because at first her plan is if she kills Peter, then that'll be a big blow to Jason, or however you say his name.
Yeah, I think I was like,
and he'll know what it's like.
Yeah, I was reading that one, but I knew in the moment I was not retaining it because I was too distracted, and I just didn't have time to go back to that. Or my brain is very bad at retaining like non-MCU Guardians canon, because the Guardians are my favorite part of the MCU. Guardians 2 is my favorite MCU movie, which I know it. Yeah, by far that one's my favorite.
So, wow. Okay, we're gonna have to talk about that at some point of why that one is your.
I don't know if it's the best
favorite.
one, but it is definitely my favorite one. I'm like, well, maybe my brain just has trouble confronting, non-MCU Guardians canon. I want to talk about the Lila Cheney arc. Well, she's in another issue beyond this, but the issue where they go to the rhyming planet. That was definitely my favorite part. That was so much fun.
Talk about it.
I liked that there was a less action-based, sort of weird, wacky sci-fi space adventure that she got into. Like she mentioned, I'm not the diplomat like Cap is, but here she is a situation where she has to at least try.
Kind of be that.
Yeah, and I like that she does get into a fight at the end, of course, but it's not very brief or very intense, and it's not like this huge life or death thing. I mean, the other opponent is trying to fight her to the death, but we all know that's not going to work, and Captain Marvel isn't going to kill her, so it was not that much of a fight to the death. But
it was a weird one for me. I didn't like those ones as much just because of the rhyming stuff.
I thought it was fun, and that's something that can be so corny, but I think maybe
it was fun, but it was like we already aren't really getting an origin story. I know we were both kind of confused about some of the references to other Marvel stuff that's happening at the time. And then all of a sudden, she's having to rhyme. What? I was like,
I loved that. I loved because it was just like a side adventure to one weird episodic planet, and it didn't feel like it was connected to anything else. Lila Cheney was there, but I knew who she was thanks to Jay and Miles Explain the X-Men, and I was really excited when she showed up because I always liked hearing about her from them. And I'm like, that lady I liked.
I was wondering if that was the case, because I've listened to a bunch of Jay and Miles, and they did a bunch of the New Mutant stuff, which I guess is the book that she's in. And she's a part of, which
I think so.
I don't remember, but I know they were gonna do a movie about them at some point, and it got delayed, and then I don't remember if it got canceled or not. It was supposed to be a horror film.
It was completed, and I think it's supposed to come out later this year, like maybe sometime between August and November. Yeah, that's still on the horizon for us. It was delayed for a long time, but we are still
screwed up
getting
with
it.
all the Marvel or the Disney buying Fox stuff, and who knows what's happening. And it did a bunch of reshoots, and who knows. But yeah, so I've heard the name, but I've literally never read anything with
me
her
either. So I was
in it.
excited when she showed up. Like, and I thought she was really fun. And I think that even if you didn't have that pre-existing base familiarity of already having heard about this fairly obscure cosmic
It's like,
Marvel
wait, is that
character.
Dazzler? Why are they calling her Lila? Who's Lila? And then I was like, oh, I remember the name. Okay, from Jade Miles. That's all I know, though. So I have no idea who she is or what she does. I don't remember anything. Just that I've heard the name. But I liked her
and I really liked that twist where she's got kind of that Nightcrawler thing where she can appear, she can like zap to somebody, she can like zap to somewhere if she knows where she's going. But because she's also this intergalactic rock star, she can go somewhere where her voice has been. So they're playing the Lila Cheney album in the spaceship, and then she's able to appear in the spaceship, which is really fun.
And it's because Carol likes her band,
and
right?
Then Tick really likes her too, which was a nice thing to see from Tick. To just see her be like a fan of something and to be really happy and enthusiastic instead of like a war-torn refugee for a change.
Yeah. It was good. I liked her character a lot. It was kind of a weird thing because after they do the planet where we find out that she had been pledged to marry someone and she didn't really realize it because she was super young, but then like immediately after it's like, oh, we're back in New York. Oh, wait, it's Christmas. I'll be back. I'm going to go do all my shopping. And she's like, oh, okay. There she goes.
Yeah, like that issue leading into the next issue, I guess, is a little odd, but I loved the rhyming planet. I love that everybody's super glam, and it is the planet that would want Lila Cheney to be their queen, because she poofs onto the planet when she's like, 12 years old, and the king and queen of this 12-year-old son, and they're like, we would like you to help rule us one day. Would you like to marry our son when you get older? And she's like, okay, sure, why not? And she's like, oh, I made a real serious pledge back then, didn't I? Can I get out of this? And I also like that the prince himself is like, I only want to get married because it is a requirement to ascend to the throne. And I want to ascend to the throne because my mom's getting old. She can't be queen forever. And like, I want to help people. Like he has very noble intentions. And he's like, I would not bind you to anything. You would be my wife in name only. You're free to do whatever you want. We just have to get married so I can like become king and help protect people. I liked that a lot. I like that it wasn't the typical sort of fairy tale, like you must get married before you can sit on the throne. And you, girl, you will marry the royal vizier that your father promised you to. Like, I like this flip that it is, the women have the right to choose and the man can be like sold around like, well, my parents sold me to this lady. I guess I have to marry her. And also that the royal family's fairly noble in doing it. Like they're doing it because it's required by law. And this prince is like, well, as soon as I'm king, I'm going to change the law because this really isn't good.
Yeah. And I guess that brings us back to Tick, because then they get to this fight to the death thing to kind of get out of it, but Tick is like, wait a minute, like you asked me that question earlier if I would rather live a really short amount of time but make an impact, or live really long and basically do nothing with my life. And she's like, I'd like to make an impact. And they're like, well, what do you mean? You're only like 14. She goes, well, I'm only gonna live till I'm 20, so that's 6 more years. That's not very long. If I can marry this guy who's kind of hot, as she said, she was like, I would be fine with it. I wouldn't mind. And then she's like, and then we know he has the intention of changing this law and bettering the planet. If I can help out with that, like, why not? That seems like something I can do in my lifetime. And so we're like, okay, have fun. Be married.
Yeah,
and be
I liked
merry.
the way that story wrapped up. I thought that was really fun, really sweet. And like I said, the rhyming can get kind of cornball. It's something I've seen in like TV shows
It can get
before, but I
cumbersome.
liked seeing it like written out. I don't know if I'd ever like read a written story that tried to use that before. And they used it really well, like lots of overlapping dialogue and going back and forth and playing with not exactly the same A B rhyme pattern all the time. And like the other woman, like the second in line that could have married this prince who wants to like fight to the death for her right to marry him so then she can become an evil queen. She's yelling stop, and then Carol punches her and the sound effect is bop. I like that even the sound effects were part of the rhyme scheme. That was really neat.
Shout out to the
Yeah.
letterer.
I really liked. I also love just the style of that whole planet, and everybody's super glammed up, and because they're kind of this.
They had the like
Yeah,
David
yeah,
Bowie stuff going on with like the lightning bolts on
yeah, and
their
it's this
faces
very
and
musical planet, and so the king of the musical planet looks like Elvis, and the sun doesn't just
yep.
have like the Aladdin sane lightning bolt. He's got the two different colored eyes like David Bowie has. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure out if the queen was somebody, and she didn't appear to be exactly a one for one for any famous musical queen.
I don't remember what she looked like off the top of my head, but my guess would be something like
She didn't have a
Madonna
Madonna look. She's got this
or
like straight across bangs look that I think Cher had for a while, but who knows? She seems
Cher would be another
she might be
good
more of a
option.
composite as opposed to the king, which is very clearly Elvis.
Yeah. We did an episode on Mob
Yeah.
Psycho 100. Was it
Yes.
last week? And there's a character in there who also looks like Elvis. He has the pompadour thing going on. It's
Hands full of
fantastic.
pompadours. That style persists there, I guess. I don't remember the last time I saw an American pompadour.
Intergalactic, and like pompadours are built for space.
They are.
Is
They can just
like,
bounce
yeah.
around in the different gravities. You can hide tools up there.
Exactly. Exactly. Because I think Space Dandy,
Oh,
the
yeah.
main character from that, has one. He's definitely like that disco Elvis looking character. What else do I want to talk? Oh, we haven't talked about Rocket and the
I
Flurkin
liked that.
yet. That I think was a good pairing. That's another example of like, hey, we're not going to have the whole Guardians of the Galaxy team. We're just going to leave Rocket here to look after your cat. And he's like, it's a Flarkin, god damn it. And no one believes him, and then it happens. And they're all just like, oh, holy shit,
Yeah.
Rocket was right. This is its
Rocket's
space
very
alien,
smart.
not a cat.
He's not always the nicest guy, and he's got a definite attitude about him, but he always seems to know what he is talking about.
That was an interesting story to me because it has that like space hijinks. We don't really know what's happening. Here's some wacky here's a character that everyone knows and loves, Rocket. And he's funny, and he's also scared of this thing called a Flurkin, but it's comedic because it looks like a cat. And he's just, excuse me, he's just like, it's this is dangerous. Like, we shouldn't mess with this thing. And then there's this kind of like pirate ship that comes along, because Rocket was trying to sell the Flurkin on the black market, unbeknownst to Carol, which is a dick move. But we don't know much about the ship that comes.
No, we don't.
There's just this black goo that is kind of on there, and
that could.
The only thing I could think about would be the symbiote.
I was gonna say, like, we never saw a human pilot or any kind of a sentient creature pilot in any sort of a form, because there maybe just isn't one. It could just be Black Goo's ship. There's all kinds of stuff out there in Marvel Cosmic.
Who knows? I know at one point, Iron Man went to go be the Avenger in
Mm-hmm.
space. I'm not sure if that's exactly how it worked. Like we saw him be like, hey, maybe one of the Avengers needs to go up in space and, you know, be the like space liaison. But there is a time when Iron Man joins the Guardians of the Galaxy, and he's kind of with them for a volume or two. And if I'm not mistaken, kind of around that time, I don't know if it's before it or after it or something, they send Agent Venom, Flash Thompson, who you might remember from Spider-Man Blue.
Yeah.
So he went off and joined the military. In that book, we see him be like, I want to be a hero like Spider-Man, so I'm going to join the military. Well, on one of his tours, I believe he becomes an amputee, and he eventually gets linked up with the Venom symbiote, and it heals him, like it gives him legs whenever he is Venom, and he goes on like secret missions and stuff. I think for like Nick Fury or whoever, you know. And yeah, there's also one point where Iron Man sends Agent Venom to go be with the Guardians of the Galaxy. So I don't know if this is the thing where like, hey, maybe a little bit of like maybe that is the Venom symbiote.
But what does the Venom want with a Flurkin? Is it going to take over that? That's too many tentacles.
Maybe.
Too many teeth.
Maybe. Who knows? Venom cat. But like, yeah, maybe in what they thought was destroying that ship, maybe a little bit of it stowed away, and the Guardians ended up finding it. That's when they took it back to Earth, because they're like, hey, you guys know what to do with this thing. And that's when Iron Man is like, yeah, we got one of those things. We're gonna send it back up with you because we don't want it. Who knows? But yeah, that was an interesting one. That there is this ship that comes and attacks, and we really don't know much about it, except that it's attacking, and they want the Flurkin because it's apparently the last one in the galaxy.
Now there's babies.
Lots of Flurkins, baby Flurkins.
Very cute. Enough for everyone.
Exactly. What else did so between volume 1 and 2 the art changed? Did that bother you? Did you like a certain art better? Did you have a preference?
I think I like the first book a little bit more, but the second book has that issue where Carol gets a lot of letters from home, and the art style changes subtly based on who is writing her the letter. I really liked that. I thought that was nice. That was a good touch.
Yeah. I don't remember off the top of my head who all the artists were on
I didn't read
that.
the artists'
I know
names.
For the most part, we said at the top it was David Lopez and Marcio Takara, I believe. Or I should look it up on my thing here so I'm not butchering it. Marcio Takara.
Awesome.
Hey, I got it right. Look at me. Doing good. So yeah, like I don't know who the other ones were, but I think I liked the second volume's art better. It was stylized in a way that I felt gave the book a little bit more personality. As much as I liked the like story arc of the like, oh, here's this poisonous planet and it's almost this like Star Wars like adventure thing. That's the one thing I keep going back to. It reminds me of Star Wars, and so I'm always comparing it to Star Wars, and I'm not necessarily letting the book stand on its own. And I think the art does the same thing, where it's like, hey, this is kind of the Marvel House style. Like, it's kind of, I don't want to say generic, because the art is fantastic. But I've seen a lot of other comics have similar styles, and it's a great art. It just doesn't stand out as much. Whereas the second volume had a little bit more like personality to
Yeah,
the
I think
artwork
that's
and the
true.
line work and
Yeah, I
stuff like
think the
that.
second book does look more distinct from comics as a whole, as I have read the
As a
small
whole, yeah.
pile of them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Which I think it's a smart move to do what they did. Because David Lopez is the one doing the art in that book, and again, the art is
Yeah.
fantastic. I think it's very easily digestible, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So for a new number one, I think it's a good it's a good way for new readers to kind of jump in and have it not be very jarring. Of just like, oh, this is really weirdly stylized, you know? It's like, oh, hey, this is really solid artwork. It's kind of like what I can get in Marvel or in DC or, you know, all the Star Wars comics, stuff like that. Like, it's something that I think is very easily recognizable and easily, I guess, like, understandable,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. And then volume 2, it's like, okay, we're gonna take a little bit more
Yeah.
creative liberty here.
So kind of rolling along to the recommendations, sort of. It's interesting that you keep mentioning that this
Sure.
reminds you of Star Wars, because the number one thing it reminds me of is Firefly. I think because
Firefly, yeah, that would be a
it's got that especially in the first issue, or not the first issue, the first volume, that kind of mismatched team, and we have some muscle, and we have a mechanic, and we have a stowaway, and they're
yeah,
trying to figure out this problem with this planet where, like, the overall alliance is not treating that planet very well, and there's secrets about the planet, which has
yeah,
happened a couple times throughout Firefly, and that's the major point of Serenity. And just the sort of downtime on the ship, like bickering back and forth, and just like, well, let's really try and get to know each other while we're stuck up here together out in the black. That's what it reminded me of the most. But I
yeah.
think that rhyming planet, not episode, issue, felt very Futurama to me. That's the sort of an episode Futurama
Yeah,
would pull off.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think those are both
Mhm.
fantastic recommendations. Yeah, I keep mentioning Star Wars, but I guess more specifically, more like the Star Wars cartoons, like the Clone
Yeah,
Wars and
yeah.
stuff like that,
I'm kind
because
of
you
reminded of
do get more of
Rebels.
that
Yeah.
Firefly spin. Yeah, yeah, you do get the, like, okay, we're just gonna go on an adventure where we go to some planet and they're having some trouble with the with the galactic empire, and so we have to help them out. And oh, there's a mining thing here, and that's the actual thing that's happening. um so yeah, Clone
Mm-hmm.
Wars or Rebels or something like that, I would also recommend. If you liked this, go check it out. um, I would also say the Guardians of the Galaxy
Okay.
comics, especially from around that time. Pick up the ones that Brian Michael Bendis were writing there, because it's that same type of thing where they're out in space. There's that
Mm-hmm.
spaceship bickering. You do get the ones that are focused on the team as a whole, and every now and then you get an adventure where Rocket goes off with Garut, and they go do
Mm-hmm.
something, or it's Peter and Gamora, and they're off doing something there.
Nice.
So it's good. It's fun. Good stuff. Again, a lot of these volumes of Captain Marvel
Yeah,
are on
this is the
sale right now for
time.
like $2 or $3 per volume, so it's dirt cheap. So go
Mm,
check it out if you want to
it is
continue
very
reading,
fun.
because it sounded like the third volume was going to focus, or not focus on Tick,
Mm-hmm.
but go back to Tick and kind of the what was the alien species that they were fighting in volume? Was There's like the
Yeah, that's like
Hefenzies or
those space
something like that?
pirates.
I'm
Yeah.
butchering that. Yeah, I think it's the third volume is going to focus on
Okay.
that, is what I think I
Neat.
read about. Like, hey, they got past those pirates that one time,
Mm-hmm.
but here they are again, coming back for more. Um,
Yeah.
so that should be good if you want to
Yeah.
continue
These were
reading
fun
there.
comics, and I think, like, looking back on them now, looking back on them to a whole, 2 hours ago. So far away. They're also pretty
Man, so long.
family friendly. Like if you have like a young kid
Yeah.
that's interested in Captain Marvel, I think starting around like 10, you could hand these comics to them.
Yeah, most Marvel comics, especially, are
Mm.
absolutely family friendly. Even, I mean, I wouldn't recommend
Yep.
Deadpool to a younger kid, but even still, like, they can read that and there's not all the cuss words like
Mm.
that are in the movie and stuff like that. Like, a lot of comics, all the cuss words and stuff are
Mhm.
bleeped out, or it just has the
Yeah.
symbols, or
Yeah.
there's not really any nudity. There might be some
Mhm.
skimpy
Yeah, and not
clothes
even
now and
in
then,
that
but
it is
that's it.
devoid
But
of any of the things they'd put on like an MPAA rating, but just in that, the story
yeah,
has some gravity to it, but it's never that dark. The situation's never that
yeah,
dire. It's pretty lighthearted. It's pretty fun. There's, kid characters in it for a kid to read about. Oh, I think it's a good
yeah,
title to like start a young fan on, not just a new fan. Mhm.
yeah. I think so. It might not be the
Yeah.
best number one, but they could
Mhm.
absolutely read this book. Um, yeah, I think that wraps us up for
Yeah.
talking about
It's
Captain
pitch time.
Marvel. But before we go,
Pitch
Melissa, it's your
time.
turn to
Yes.
pitch what we're gonna do for this
Okay.
next
So
week.
next Sunday, the day we will be recording is St. Patrick's Day. So, pitch number
Ooh.
one is the movie Secret of Kells. This is a 2009 animated movie by an Irish studio called Cartoon Saloon, and it is set in
Huh.
Ireland. And I've seen little bits of this movie before, and it's
Never heard of it.
gorgeous. Like, just go look up some screenshots from it. It's very beautiful. I think it's done a little bit more traditionally, like very detailed line work, like vivid colors. It's a gorgeous looking film. And I've seen bits of it before, and it's been on my list to like sit down and really capital W watch for a long time. And
Cool.
the basic
Sounds good.
synopsis for this is a young boy in a remote medieval outpost under siege from barbarian raids is beckoned to adventure when a celebrated master illuminator arrives with an ancient book brimming with secret wisdom and powers. That is the titular Secret of Kells. The Kells is this old, like, ancient illuminated manuscript full of magic, I guess. I don't know much
There
about
you
this
go.
one, but that's why I pitched it so I could get to know more about it. And then
Sounds good
pitch
to
number
me.
two is Green Lantern, the animated series, just because I thought,
Oh,
because it's St.
yeah.
Patrick's Day, why not put a green thing on here? This is the perfect place to include Green
actually,
Lantern.
actually, funny that you mentioned that, because when I tweeted out that we were going live today on our Twitter, I used a GIF from one of the like DC
Oh.
animated something, and it's this kid talking to Booster Gold and mistaking him for Green Lantern. He's like, "Thank you, Green Lantern."
So Green Lantern, the animated series, aired on Cartoon Network from 2012 to about 2013. It did not last long, so we could watch the entire series, which is 26
Which is
episodes.
a shame, because the show was actually
Yeah, I
decent.
saw a couple episodes while it was on, and I liked it enough that like I bought the DVD set and I've not sat down and watched it from beginning to end since I did that. So this might be the time to do it. And I don't have a great plot synopsis because I don't remember very much. And the synopses I looked up, like IMDb has one sentence that just says the further adventures of Hal Jordan and his comrades of the Green Lantern Corps. And Wikipedia has like 4 paragraphs that I could not distill. So I either have way too much info or not
It's
enough.
I don't like. I remember it's him getting the ship, meeting the little AI
Yeah.
thing that's
Aya.
in there. I think one of the first arcs is Sinestro.
Or
Could be wrong. I know eventually the
Atrocitus.
Manhunters appear. Oh, okay. Atrocitus. So yeah, then they do the like orange
Mm-hmm.
lanterns, instilling fear in people
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. But yeah, I kind of remember Sinestro's story being in there, like his origin story, or I guess not his origin story, but how he ends up getting kicked out of the Green Lanterns. I don't know if that's in season 1 or not. And then I remember somewhere in the show, the Manhunters were the big bad guy. So the things that the Guardians made before the Green Lanterns, and they went bad. So who knows? But yeah.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Wikipedia now, and 26 episodes is all there ever was. Yep.
Watched it.
Yep. Okay, so we could watch all of those in a week, I think. And then it is your birthday this week, is it not, Kyle? What?
Nope.
What are these? Okay, are you telling me you just put a string of random numbers on your previous screen name and that's not when your birthday was? Because the whole time I've been thinking, oh, the 15th. I thought that was your birthday. When is your birthday? What?
It's in November.
Did we cover this?
No, I don't think so. I usually don't announce like, hey guys, it's my birthday. Everyone wish me happy birthday because it's all about me.
That's got to be Kyle's birthday because like we started doing the show in April and I'm like, it hasn't mentioned, he hasn't mentioned it being his birthday since then. It's got to be in March, like before we started recording because it's been almost a year.
So a quick aside, I used to be really big into graffiti, and at one point got suspended from school for doing it. But one of the names that I used, you would often like use a name and pair it with some numbers and stuff. I got those numbers because that was the like street address that I lived on was 315, and then I just stuck with that, and like all of my like stuff was like Hush 315. That was my thing.
I thought it was your birthday because pitch number 3 was going to be something like, it's my gift to you. It's something that you have not seen, but I am almost certain you will like. So here, I present to you a thing you will have a definite, really fun time with. So pitch number 3 is Pacific Rim, because you told me once you've never seen it, and I was really surprised. Not because it's a very big movie or a popular movie or a classic, but because it seems like something you would love because it's so Gundam. And I know you like Gundam, and I know you like giant robots and sci-fi and things like that. So I'm like, I don't know why he hasn't seen Pacific Rim. Nerd. If I make him watch it this week, that'll be a definite good time. A treat for Kyle for his birthday. I've been tricked.
You can give St. Patty's Day gifts. Okay, so let's see. Pitch number 1 was this Irish movie, is what you said. What was the name of that one? The Secret of Kells. Pitch number 2 was Green Lantern, and pitch number 3 was Pacific Rim. I think I want to try the Green Lantern show again. Yeah, it's been years since I've watched the
same here, and I never watched very much of it.
I remember liking it and being like, man, this sucks that it only lasted for 26 episodes. But it was that like computer animated art style that I don't think a lot of people really liked, because I know the Star Wars Clone Wars got a lot of shit for being in a similar art style, like, which I don't mind at all.
Yeah, on the surface level, like after watching commercials, people didn't like the art style, and I think if you actually get into the series itself, it works pretty well. But yeah, on the surface level, people didn't like the art style. And it was also canceled because the Green Lantern movie had bombed so bad a couple years before that nobody wanted Green Lantern toys, and they couldn't sell toys based off it because that's how the cartoons go.
Yeah. Oh well. That's what happens. But next week, you said it's only 26 episodes? Yeah, that's
all of it. And I don't know. I didn't look up where you can watch this because I own the DVDs, but hopefully it is accessible out there somewhere.
Hopefully. Hopefully, if not, you can just buy the DVDs.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. Sounds good. Don't forget that coming up at the end of the month, we will be stopping the live streams that we do for this, or at least the public ones, and we will be doing patron-only live streams, which you can get for $1 on our Patreon, which is patreon.com/the Whatnauts. It gets you those live streams. It gets you all of our episodes early because these new episodes of the review show come out on Wednesdays. But if you want to get them on like Mondays, Monday nights, something like that, you can
start your week off right.
Patreon, as well as all our other shows too. So it not only nets you rewards for this show, but all our other podcasts as well. Also, be on the lookout for a new episode of the Reactor Core, which is one of the other podcasts that we do. It has been so long since we've done an episode of the Reactor Core, but I think we have some things coming up, because I know I also want to go see Shazam. That should be a lot of fun too, which oddly enough, we've only ever done Marvel stuff on the Reactor Core, so we need to change that, and then eventually we need to also not do only superhero stuff. We need to just like, because the idea is that's the show where we can do spoiler casts for like new Netflix shows that we binged, or hey, there's this movie on Netflix that just came out, or a new Hulu original, or hey, this new sci-fi action film just came out in theaters. Let's go watch it, or something. Or new rom-com came out, and Melissa wants to go see it. Who else wants to go? And I'll be like, not me, but maybe someone else will go. And then you guys can do an episode of the Reactor Core, something like that. But yeah. We've only done Marvel stuff.
Those are
so
the
far.
big pinnacle tentpoles. But yeah, this is a show not just for things like that. It's for anything that we want to.
Wait, we did do one for Solo.
Oh yeah, that's right. I couldn't make that one.
We did do one for Solo, so we've only done Disney stuff. But there you go. So be on the lookout for that. That should already be live by time this episode goes live as well. Yeah. I think that's all I have to say at the end of the show. Melissa, where can they find you on the interwebs? You can find me
on Twitter and Instagram at WilkyWit. That's WilkyWit.
And you can find me at YoKyleSpringer on both Twitter and Instagram. If you guys want updates for any of our podcasts, so you can stay in the loop, at the Whatnauts on Twitter is where you can do that. You can normally find our live streams here on twitch.tv/the Whatnauts. The Captain's Log will still be chugging along, usually on Friday nights at around 10 p.m. Eastern time. You can go watch us live stream that. Patreon.com/the Whatnauts is where you can support us. Right now we are $1 away, a single dollar away from reaching our first Patreon goal. So if you like any of the podcasts that we do and you find it in your heart or the quarters in your couch cushions to support us, that would be fantastic. We would love to have your support, and it means we can make bigger and better content for you. I just got this Stream Deck thing that I paid for out of pocket, kind of. It was a Christmas gift that I was just able to redeem now in March.
Just in time for your birthday.
My unbirthday.
Second birthday.
It's my second birthday.
It's the birthday you tell the people you know in real life, and then the birthday you tell to your internet friends.
Yeah, my birthday's in March, guys. But yeah, all of the support that we get goes back into the show to pay for hosting and all of that stuff. So we would love to have you support us here at the Whatnauts. It would be fantastic. That is all, I believe. This has been episode 48 of the Whatnauts review show. Thank you guys for checking it out. We will be back next week with Green Lantern, the animated series. Yeah, should be fun. More space cops.
Space cops back to back.
Exactly. We will see you guys next week.
Bye.
Adios, guys. Thank you so much for watching that episode of the review show. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys followed along at home. That's what we want you to do every time. Go subscribe to our channel if you liked it. Go look at our most recent upload and go hit the video that YouTube wants you to watch. Whatever one. All of it helps. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you.